This video covers notes 7-4, everything that you need to do in class. So at this time, you need to make sure if you have not gotten a stamp on your 7-3 assignment yet, that you speak up now and get your stamp, because if you don't get today's stamp, you will not get credit for it and you will take a late grade. So here are 1 and 2. Please pause the video to take a quick look. 3 and 4, please pause the video to take a quick look. 5 and 6. 7 and 8. 9 and 10. 11 and 12. And now it's time for notes. So if you don't have your notes out already, please pause the video and go ahead and grab 7-4 notes. Make sure everyone is ready to move on before going to the next slide. So on our 7-4 notes, remember we are talking about similar polygons. 2 things have to happen. The corresponding angles have to be congruent. So the angles have to be the same and the sides have to be proportional. So the angles must be exactly the same and the sides must be proportional. However, if you don't know all of the sides and angles, there is another way to tell. So we do have some other theorems in this unit. The first one is angle-angle similarity. If 2 angles in one triangle are congruent to 2 of the other triangle, then the triangles are similar. The reason being, if you know 2 of the angles are the same, triangles have to add to 180, so that third angle must be the same as well. So if we look at example 1, can these triangles be proven by AA? If so, write a similarity statement. So I can see that I have some parallel lines. So I have parallel lines and a transversal, which means that these angles, J and F, are going to be congruent by alternate interior angles. And then I have some vertical angles in the middle that are going to be congruent. So because I have 2 angles, yes, these will be congruent. So I could start at J, go down to K, and into H. And that would be the same as if I went from F to G to H. Now keep in mind, you can name your triangles differently as long as they match up in the same spots as where mine are. Like the letters match. A second way to show is side angle side. Very similar to what we did in Unit 6 with congruent triangles. So in 2 triangles, if a pair of corresponding angles are congruent and the sides including the triangles are proportional, instead of congruent, this time they're proportional, then the triangles are similar. So they ask us, are these similar using side angle side? If so, write a similarity statement. So I have an angle that is the same. I have the sides on either end, so the ratio of 4 to 6 is that congruent. So 4 to 6 is the same as 2 to 3. And then 6 to 9 reduces to 2/3. So the ratios are proportional. So yes, these are similar. So we could say M in L to P R Q. And then the third way is probably what you could guess, side, side, side. So if we have 3 pairs of corresponding sides of 2 triangles are proportional, then the triangles are similar. So remember, with similarity, these things are not exactly the same, they are proportional. So if I go 3 to 9, which is the same thing as 1/3, does that relate to 5/15, which is 1/3, so we're good there. And 4 to 12 is also 1/3, so yes, these are similar. So remember, you have to compare one side to the other, and if they reduce to the same fraction, this would have a ratio of 1/3, because remember, ratios are like fractions turned on their sides. And then we just write our similarity statement, TSU to WXD. And I will tell you, if some of you are wondering, how do you know which side to compare to? They aren't going to give you triangles that are like all flipped around and backwards unless they tell you they're similar. So if they're asking you if they're similar, they're going to make the triangles be as close to what they would need to be if they're similar, if at all possible. Now, there are some on the next slide that are a little bit funky, so we have to be a little careful about these. So the first thing I'm going to notice is that these triangles do not look exactly the same. So if I wanted to, I could redraw this triangle. I have D, E, and G out here. D to E has a side of 3. E to G has a side of 6, and D to G has a side of 5. So I'm just redrawing this triangle out up above so I can see and compare it to this triangle down below. Now that I've done that, I have a side of 3 and 6, which reduces to 1/3. I have a side of 5, I'm sorry, that's 1/2. Sorry. I have a side of 5 to 10, which reduces to 1/2. And then be careful here, I have a side of 6 and a side of 6 plus 6, which would be 12. So see, let me show you that again, just in case you missed it. So on this side, E to F, I have a side of 6 and a side of 6 for a total length of 12. Now, all of these fractions reduce to the same ratio. So yes, these are congruent. They are congruent through side. I'm sorry, similar. They are similar through side. And we could say E to D to G is the same as F to H to E. Okay. Now, on this example 5, we're looking at some angles. So we have an angle here. So we either need to go for angle, or side, angle, side. Now, I don't know anything about these sides, but if you look, we have a shared angle. We have this triangle in green, which is kind of overlapping this big triangle. And the green and the yellow are both sharing this angle up above. So we have the blue angle that's shared and the red angle that's shared. So yes, these could be similar through angle, because this third angle must be congruent, because we already have two angles that are congruent to each other. And then we could name it. I gotta erase some of this to see it. So I could name it XWV and XZY. And again, if you're trying to determine if they are similar, sometimes they are not set up in the nicest way, but that hardly ever happens like on 4. Most of the time they're set up to where you could like start at the top, go left, right, start at the top, left, right. So if we look at 6, here I only have 2 sides. There is nothing that I can use with 2 sides. I have to have 2 sides and an angle, or 3 sides. There is no side, because that third side could be something super crazy. So if you only have 2 sides, cut it out real quick. Don't let it live. Okay? Now this one, if I'm looking at this triangle, again, I can see they share an angle at the top. And then I have a smaller triangle with sides of 6 and 10. And the bigger triangle with sides of 9, because 6 plus 3 is 9, and 15. So I have an angle, but I only have 1, so now I need to go for side, angle, side. So if I relate, 6 to 9 reduces to 2/3. And then 10 to 15 reduces to 2/3. So I'm trying to color code so you can see the pieces I'm looking at. These ratios are the same. So yes, these are similar through side, angle, side. And I could start at the top, LKM, LJN. Okay, we got a couple more examples. So 8, they ask us if these are congruent. First, I notice a vertical angle. So this may have to be side, angle, side, because I don't see another angle. And we only have 3 options: angle, angle, side, or side, side, side. So if I relate these triangles are flipped. So 3 relates to 9 as a 1/3, and 4 relates to 12, and that reduces to 1/3 as well. So yes, through side, angle, side. When you name these, be careful. PQL would be the same as SQR, because these triangles are like flipped inverses of each other. So be careful with those. They're flipped over. They're reflections. So these are asking if they are similar, and if so, what's the ratio? So ABC to XYZ. So 4 to 16 reduces to 1/4. 5 to 20 reduces to 1/4. And 7 to 28 reduces to 1/4. So yes, and my ratio is 1 to 4. Okay, so I just took first and first, second and second, third and third. You will go in order of the numbers you were given, like first relates to first, second relates to second, unless they give you the sides and then tell you that the sides are not congruently the same or something like that. Okay, so 3 over 2.5, that's kind of ugly. 5 over 2 and 6 over 3. So 6 over 3 is 2. I know for a matter of a fact that 5 to 2 is 2.5. So these are not congruent. So I'm sorry, similar. So no, these are not similar without me even having to do all of the work. Now, when you are looking to find the common ratio, it really doesn't matter which triangle, because here they haven't said ABCD is similar. They haven't told you which one goes in the front and which one goes in the back. So like if you were mixing these things up and you put 2.5 over 3 and 2 over 5 and 3 over 6, that's fine as long as you stay congruent or consistency. So if you want to put all of these first and all of these second, that's fine. But don't do one that's 2.5 over 3 and then the next one do 5 over 2, because that's not the same triangle on top. If you need, you can do PQR on the top and STU on the bottom, just to help yourself remember which one goes on top and which one goes on the bottom. So now it's time for that 7-4 assignment. So please make sure you are working on it. Remember, we are not distracting others. That is not something we do, because we want to help our classmates be successful. Music is okay as long as you're working, and then phones after you are done. If you finish, don't be afraid to ask for that stamp before you leave, and have a great Thursday.